Hey, my name is Madeline Shankles, and I read the book The Things They Carried by Tim O'Brien. The book was published on March 28th, 1990. The book tells about war stories of the soldiers in the Vietnam War. It begins by introducing the soldiers that it talks about in the book, and it also talks about the actual objects and stuff that they carried with them. For example, it talks about how one soldier carried his girlfriend's picture, another carried a Bible, one carried pantyhose of his girlfriend as superstition to keep him safe. Some carried comic books, and it talks about just the different objects that they all had. It also talks about the type of weapons and stuff that they carried along with them, and the materials that they needed. And so as the book goes on, it talks about more war stories that happened in Vietnam. Some of the stories are told in the narrator's point of view and what he experienced, and some of the other stories talk about the other soldiers and what they went through. I read this entire book cover to cover, every word on every page. So I found this book to be really interesting. I enjoyed reading it more than I thought I would. So since I did enjoy reading it, it was a lot easier for me to read. I liked reading about the different stories that the soldiers had, even though some were actually hard for me to read. It was hard to read about the deaths that took place, especially when it was their brothers in combat. So I was not a fan of that part of the book. So one thing that I realized while reading the book was that the things they carried was actually more than the objects they carried. It had more to do with what the soldiers carried in their mind. I was able to just learn about the huge effect that it had on these soldiers. It had a psychological effect. They carried grief and pain from losing their friends and just seeing so much death, and just the overall impact that it had on them of going to war in general. So the book gives you a small insight onto the huge impact that it had on these soldiers. So overall, I would recommend this book for others to read. It was good, and it was interesting, and it's neat to learn about just the impact that it has on soldiers and people, and they read some of the stories. So the lesson plan I'm planning is for 4th grade. I'm focusing the lesson plan on the events that took place in the Vietnam War. I'm planning on teaching the students just the events and the impacts that it had on America and the people. I also plan on informing the students of the events that took place through a PowerPoint. I also plan on using 2 children's books. One is called The Wall by Eve Bunting, and the other is called Patrol, an American Soldier in the Vietnam War, and it is by Walter Dean Myers. As an activity, I also plan on letting students explore the Vietnam Memorial and other war memorials through a virtual field trip. I think it'll be really cool for them to just see these memorials and explore them, and have an insight into that. Another activity and assessment that I have for the students is a PowerPoint. The PowerPoint they will make will be about the events that took place during the Vietnam War. They will most likely need to do this PowerPoint with a partner and with support. One of the activities I have planned is for students to write a paragraph on the impacts that the war had and what they think the impact was on people and America. So overall, I have learned so much from this book and just the impact that it can have on people. And I'm really glad that I read this book and was able to have that insight. That is all I have.